Yeah. Nico is I'm gonna introduce our today's guest is Nico Salgado. Nico is a teacher in New York, and he teaches Spanish class, and he is also a multifamily investor. Nico is an expert in social media, thought leadership platform. He and I started this virtual meetup back in 2020, I think around May. So he could give a little bit of background on that. And until today, it's been consistent and we're having so much fun. So Nico, take it away.
All right, my man, let's rock. I will share my screen and then I'm going to start talking a little bit. If at any point you guys want to, oh, I could just do this, cool. If at any point you guys have a question, just unmute yourself or pop it in the chat or both, you know, don't be shy. Can you guys still see this?
Yes.
Yep. All right, cool. So Yosef just mentioned something pretty interesting, and I'm going to start with this. Yosef was like, you know, that we started in, what is it, May of 2020, right? And I'll give you guys a quick story. If you have fears of beginning something like this, and this is going to hopefully set the stage for you to kind of relax. My first meetup, you know, I was reading all these books and stuff about meetups and why we should do it. It was really Joe Fairless who turned me on to it. He was like, you need to start a meetup, you know, to become a thought leader. And I said, all right, well, I'm just going to do it. And this was like 2 months into my multifamily journey. And I began a local meetup. I had one of my friends give me the keys to his bakery, a popular bakery here where I live in Long Beach, New York. And I opened the doors, had a presentation ready to go, and ended up going there. And, you know, only a few people came, but the first person to walk in the door was actually a guy giving me divorce papers. So at that time, it was, Yosef, can you click admit for Nicole? I can't click it for some reason right now. At that time, I was going through or in the beginning stages of my divorce. And the first person to walk into the room, I was like, welcome to my meetup. And he goes, boom, you're getting divorced. And I was like, oh, so from that second on, the rest of the night was obviously grueling. I spent the next 3 hours just trying to, you know, figure out what the rest of my life was going to be while talking about multifamily real estate to people who had no idea what it was. And I had no idea what I was talking about. So to say the least, it was a difficult experience. But from that point on, I had a decision to make. You know, that was the only in-person meetup I had done. And I then took it up virtually because it was the exact week that COVID hit and everything got shut down. So my decision was, number one, am I going to keep doing this? Right. And then number two, to go virtual with it. So I decided, yes, I'm going to keep doing this. This is something that I'm committed to. It can't get any worse than the first time. So it's got to get better. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I did like one virtual meetup or something, or maybe two, and Yosef came to both of them. And he was enthusiastic about it. I was losing steam. And he said, he just called me about it. He called me about the potential to do his own meetup. And I said, you know, why don't you just help me with mine? Because I can't do it anymore. I didn't feel like I had the traction. I didn't feel like I had the energy. And he literally gave me rocket fuel. He took on so much and really helped this thing grow. So I owe basically everything to Yossi. But this is another testament to the fact that you can do this and you don't have to do it alone. Okay, so that's an important fact too. All right, Yossi, you can stop me at any point too. We're gonna go through a few things, like I'll do a little intro. We'll talk about what a thought leadership platform is, why you should or can start one, what are the different types, because there's so many different thought leadership platforms out there. You don't have to be stuck to the ones that you might be afraid of, right? And then how to start one, and then we'll give you some tips for success, and then we're going to show you what, you know, Yosef and I have created, and we'll take any questions. And you can obviously ask questions throughout.
Yes. Just to add a little bit, so I still recall too, I attended Nico's first and second virtual meetups because that's when I just joined the Jake and Gino back in 2020 February, right before pandemic hit. And then I also read the syndication book by Joe Fairless and read about the thought leadership platform. So that's how I got to learn about it. And then I wanted to start one. I also didn't know what to do. So I started just looking for a meetup, and then pandemic happened and I couldn't really go out. So I started looking for virtual, and then boom, I found one of the member from Jake and Gino was doing a virtual meetup. It was Nico. So I attended it and attended twice. I really thought it was a brilliant idea to be able to just gather together. So I started thinking about doing my own, and then Nico to me looked really, really, experienced. So I asked him, Nico, what I want to start my own. Sorry if you could kind of mute. Okay, good. I want to start my own virtual meetups. Can you give me any tips? That's when Nico said, hey, Yosef, how about we do it together? So that's how it all started. And again, I want to say, you don't have to do this yourself. You don't have to do this alone. If you can find, just like we're finding a partner to do a deal together, same thing. You can find somebody who can complement your skill set and do this together.
Yep.
Right. That's it. Let's go.
Awesome, man. It's excellent advice, and it's true. There have been times when I had to put my daughter to bed and Yosef covered for me. There have been times where he was late, a little late from work, and I had to cover for him. It is ideal, honestly, to work with somebody else. And you can do, let's stick on this topic of meetup for now. You can do one in person or you can do one virtually. And, so there's multiple different options, and you don't have to host anything yourself necessarily. You don't have to be the presenter, right? You don't have to be the leader, right? You can bring on different people to either interview or share their presentations, because you're still providing value to the people that attend the meetup, in the sense that you are giving them some sort of education, whether that be from a guest that's going to talk about what's going on in the current lending environment, or whether you're going to interview somebody on in front of everybody. So the idea is to add value to people. You don't have to be a professional to be seen as or considered a thought leader, right? So here's the bottom line. We all want to do deals. We're all in this for real estate, so we want to do deals. If you're going to be doing multifamily, this is a team sport. This is something that I learned a little too late, but it is definitely a team sport. You're going to need to partner with people either as a JV or partnership or as a GP. You may need co-sponsors to come in and help you syndicate deals, or you may need to be a co-sponsor in someone else's deal. You will need limited partners eventually if you plan on syndicating deals. You will need to be well educated. You will need to be credible. You'll need to be valuable to a team. You will need experience, etc. So starting a thought leadership platform will help you get all of these things. And I can share personal experiences of how I went from zero knowledge, this was within the first 3 months of me joining Jake and Gino, creating the meetup, to being seen as somewhat of an authority in the Jake and Gino community and eventually the multifamily space, with having no knowledge, right? Because we bring on people to take that, to give us that credibility. So I can't read this for some reason. I'm gonna have to unplay this screen. I got it. Okay, cool. So what is a thought leadership platform? And I was thinking about this and I looked up different definitions of it, but I kind of came up with my own. I just wrote this out. So thought leaders are the expert in an industry or field. They're competent, relevant, knowledgeable, experienced, credible people that others look to for guidance or advice, right? People value thought leaders' opinions and views on particular topics. Now, a thought leadership platform provides you with a method of displaying your competence to the world. It is a means of showing the world that you are a force in a particular industry, that you are a professional, you are the go-to guy or gal in that space. It is your voice. Now, your platform might only be for your friends and family at this point, but we all kind of have a thought leadership platform. We're probably projecting our information, whatever we're learning, whatever part of our journey we're on, to those closest to us, right? And that is your platform. Sometimes it's just in the form of an email or like a little newsletter, right? And that's okay. That's your platform for displaying your authority in the multifamily space. And you're going to get better and better at it. So do not stop. All right, so why start? Why start a thought leadership platform? So before anybody would invest with you, whether it's a JV, right, or a G, as a limited partner, you have to be seen as credible. Somebody needs to know, somebody who knows what they're doing. You have to be somebody that somebody wants to invest with. You have to become that person. Nobody, and I struggled with this too, right in the beginning, you can't just walk up to people and ask them for money. You might have the best deal in the world. You might think you have the best deal in the world, and it might actually be the best deal in the world. But if you just throw up information on somebody, talking to them about real estate or about something that you haven't been priming them for the prior 6 months or so, nobody will invest with you. It's just the way things work. You have to kind of be seen as credible. You have to be seen as an authority in that space that you're playing in. For us, multifamily. So a thought leadership platform provides the foundation for that know, like, and trust, right? And I guarantee you guys, and this happened to me as well, I guarantee you guys that you know somebody that you've been listening to either on a podcast, or you've read their books, or you attended their courses, right? And those people you feel somewhat of a connection with, right? Those are thought leaders. Those are the people that are putting their voice out there. They have whatever platform it is, and you see them as credible and people with integrity, people that you would want to potentially invest with. So this is also, and this is a good time for me to stop and say, this isn't all you have to do, right? This is kind of like creating a thought leadership platform is the basis for the beginning of you connecting with people and putting yourself out there to be a thought leader. You create this platform, you are then becoming a thought leader, and that is just one piece of getting people to invest with you or you partnering with other people. This is one of the pieces.
I also want to add something on this. Don't think this is the thought leadership platform is only to attract the investors, right? Because this is another way to also get connected to other active investors, multifamily investors. This is one way to be able to network with them. Through this thought leadership platform, you are actually earning your trust from the LPs, but also other active investors, so that they might be your future partners, not only your future investors, but could be your future partners. So don't just think that, oh, this may be just for the capital raiser or who's into raising capital. No, not at all. This is for everybody. Through this, you're earning credibility. And with that, you can actually find your future partners too.
Yeah, so great points, Jos. And so from my podcast, I was asked 4 different times from 4 different people to be a co-sponsor. These are people that I interviewed on my podcast, right? So these are people that, and Yosef is going to talk about this too, but you reach out to those people that you admire, that you want to get on your podcast. You build a connection with them. You interview them genuinely as if you're learning from them, but you also be seen by your listeners and your audience as somebody who is talking to this awesome person in the industry. And then you build a connection with both your listeners as well as the person that you're interviewing. And then they will potentially ask you to partner with them. And as a matter of fact, people in our space in the Jake and Gino community have partnered with Jorge Abreu, right? And they created a great partnership with him just from getting him on the podcast. And so there's multiple ways that we can benefit from this. Yeah, let's rock. Any guys, just unmute yourself. Don't be shy. Open book we are. All right, so here are some. I was like, these are not all of them, but there are some of the thought leadership platforms. We can do a podcast. There's different ways of doing a podcast. I know Bob is starting one. You can do an interview style, which is in my mind the easiest. I've also done solo casts where I'm just me talking. You can do storytelling. You can steal material from other people. You can just read articles and explain articles to people. You can just talk about different topics in whatever space. Let's just call it multifamily. You could talk about, how to underwrite, let's say, and keep it with, let's say pull an underwriting article or book and talk about it and explain it to people. So podcasts are one excellent way of creating, or one excellent thought leadership platform. Meetups, this is also what Yosef and I have done. and you guys see it all the time, and you've probably all been to a bunch of them, and you can take what you like and don't like at this point and kind of create your own. There are multifamily and more meetups where you can kind of sign up to for a platform that's already existing. Yosef and I decided to create our own, and if you want to go that route, we have helped other people as well do that. You can create a course, guys. Like I might do this as well, like a Udemy or Udemy, however you pronounce it. You can do an online course, and it can be evergreen. It can just sit there. You know, people can go and buy. Let's say it's a $10 course, and you can, and we can. We're all capable of doing this. Like how to find deals in your market, right? Create a couple, like a 3-stage 1-hour course or something like that. $10. Keep it up there, or something. Even make it even more relevant to people that you're planning on talking to. For example, how to invest passively in a multifamily deal, right? And because you're going to have those conversations a million times, maybe create a little mini course. It can be even free, right? And you can give that away. You can write a blog. I did a blog for a while, and I ended up not being able to sustain it. I didn't like that. It took me longer than I thought it would take to write. Although I do enjoy writing, it just wasn't something I stuck with. So I think I wrote about 10 blog posts and then stopped. But there are other ways that you can write if that's what you choose and what you feel comfortable doing. And if you think maybe that's what your audience would like, you can write a book. And I'm eventually going to do this as well. I was just reading Anthony Vicino's book, and that thing is exactly what we're, so you can tell the book is phenomenally done. I really like the way he did it. He's a professional writer, number one, but he went through exactly what we would do to explain to passive investors what we do in a book. So he comes across as super credible for making this book. I love that. You could start a YouTube channel, which you can even do like multiple. My podcast, I should be posting on my YouTube channel. I just haven't gotten there yet. I have all the videos ready to go, and I can post them there. When you're posting on YouTube, you have to know that there's a certain way to post and hashtag and get the algorithm going. But YouTube is one of my personal best ways of learning something new, and where I feel comfortable teaching something as well. So if I were to teach a course, I would do it on YouTube most likely. Mastermind, guys, you can start a mastermind. And Bob, I don't know if you've spoken with people about this, but after, let's say you have a meetup, let's say you have a thought leadership platform that's running for a while, you have anywhere from 10 to 50 followers, right, that are consistently consuming your content or enjoying what you put out there. You can then request from those 50 people, hey, I'm going to start a mastermind for whatever level knowledge it is that you have at that point. We're going to come together as a group. It's going to be $99 a month or something. We're going to meet 4 times a month, 10 people, and we're closing it. Think of that. I mean, that's like $1,000 a month that you can just be getting. Pretty simple to do. And we all have something we can teach in a mastermind. For example, me, I feel like I can help people within their first 6 months of joining or starting their multifamily career. That's where I would personally feel comfortable doing a mastermind. I wouldn't be able to run like a make it happen mastermind, but I could do the first 6 months in multifamily and feel comfortable. Yossi, got anything?
Yeah. So you might be overwhelming. You might be thinking that this is overwhelming a lot. Looking at these different types of thought leadership platforms. But as Nico said, everyone starts somewhere. So you just need to pick one. You don't have to be doing everything all at once. You could just pick one, whatever that makes you feel comfortable the most. Maybe if you're afraid of being in front of camera, you could probably start with writing a blog, or maybe writing a short books, right? But if you're good at, rather than writing something, if you're good at talking in front of camera, it doesn't matter, then you could probably start with a YouTube channel, just putting all the knowledge together, maybe short videos, or just like us, you could start meetups and maybe podcasts. So again, you don't have to do this all at once. Just think about pros and cons and your comfort levels, and then just pick one and start that one. And then as you go, you're going to accumulate the contents, and you're going to have more idea as to make you to move to the next level or next platform, so that you could at one point start doing 2 of them, just like how Nico is doing meetup and podcast now.
Yeah, great points, Yossi. You don't have to do more than one. And I would recommend just sticking with one, to be honest with you. And even your newsletter, if you're putting out a monthly newsletter, that's your platform, guys. You're rocking it. Kill that. Put some love into that monthly newsletter. Super important, right? So you don't have to do multiple of these. And some of these are scary. And we're going to talk a little bit about some limiting beliefs that we all have. But if you are committed to being an authority in the multifamily space, you got to have some sort of thought leadership platform. No, people need to know, like, and trust you, right? So if they don't know you, then they can't like or trust you. So you got to put yourself out there somewhere. And it could even be just, posts, like we're doing this challenge, Yosef, right? It could just be posting daily about your multifamily journey. That is also, in my mind, a platform.
Right. Using the social media is another way to, it's a platform. I mean, social media platform, right? That's what it is. So using the social media is another great way to expose yourself. And just like Nico said, you need to be known.
Yeah.
So they call it what? KLTI. So people invest in you. Oh, people won't invest with you unless they trust you. But they won't trust you unless they like you. They won't like you unless they can't like you unless they know you, right? So the K comes first. You got to be known first, right? That's why we're doing this thought leadership platform, social media.
Yeah, excellent. And before we move on, I'm going to add two little things of where your thought should be, should your basis be. And it should be of providing value to others while also educating yourself. So it can be twofold. You can be selfish by educating yourself through any one of these platforms while you're providing value. Okay, so think about providing value. And if you set yourself up from that stance, you will crush it. All right.
Interesting point, Nico, if you don't mind. I mean, so one of the things that sort of, conversations that I had with you turned me on to the idea to follow my sort of passion to start this podcast thing. I never intended to start posting YouTube videos, but the service that I'm going through, they offer to take all of your podcasts and turn them into videos and post them to your YouTube account. So, I'm only focusing on the podcast, but they're sort of putting them out there. So I think just kind of looking at your list, there are some opportunities where you can focus on one thing and create two sorts of credibility, right? If you focus on a book and break it down into blog posts and create multiple credibility in multiple locations, but really focusing on just sort of one thing to begin with, I think that might be a good opportunity.
Excellent
Very
point.
good point. Very good point, Bob.
Yeah, and you know what? So yeah, you're going with Podblade most likely, and they really do a good job with getting they know how to write up the YouTube channel stuff properly. They have the right hashtags. Like, I had a professional look at it, and he said, "Who's doing this?" And I told him, and he was like, "They're doing it right." So you'll get traction from that. And you added something that I can't skip as well, is passion. If you're not passionate about the topic that you choose to talk about, and maybe I think the topic is probably more important than the platform. If you're not passionate about the topic, you will fizzle out because it's a lot of work. So be passionate about it. Think about providing value while you're learning.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm kind of, I'm giving you some steps. You don't have to follow them exactly. They can be moved around. I kind of I'm not a professional at this. I just whip this together, right? So one, you can pick a platform, one of the ones from the other page, right? Choose a topic or a theme, right? And Bob, I love yours. He's doing investing with health conscious stuff in mind. So I really like that. And it's something he's passionate about. So it'll keep him going for the long haul. Think of a name, right? Now, something that resonates with you personally, but you're going to have some sort of name. It could be like, Yosef's podcast or Yosef's meetup, but just because people need to be able to identify you. But don't get stuck here. I think that this is overly emphasized in some people. People get stopped at this stage where like, well, I don't know what to call it. And that stops you. I think that in the end, the marketing and branding, which I'm going to get to in a second, is really more powerful than the name. So don't if you're like stuck on the name and that's stopping you from doing a thought leadership platform, I don't know what to call it, just forget about it. Okay, put your own name, put like, Yosef's podcast, Yosef Meetup, and it doesn't really matter in the end. Marketing and branding. So marketing is, like your advertisements, how you're going to show yourself to the world, right? So go to Fiverr, I recommend. I have great people on Fiverr that can create a mood board for you, and then you take that to develop all your marketing stuff. When they create a mood board, it's something that resonates with you, and you take that to make your logos, your templates for posts, and everything thereafter. Now, branding. I was just interviewing John Kasman, who is a marketing guy. He's also a multifamily guy, and he's going to be on my podcast like in at the end of July. But he was talking about branding, and branding is really what people say about you when you are not in the room. And this is extremely important. This is much more important than your name, right? So forget about number 3 here. Think about how you want to come across to people and be that person at all times. And it might take a while for people to catch on, but this is in my mind, extremely important. And it's funny. I just today, I got off a conversation, a podcast interview with Ash Patel. And he said to me, I've never felt so comfortable on a podcast before being interviewed. He says, I've done a dozen of these. And he said, Nico, I truly felt really comfortable with you. And I said, you know what? That's exactly how I want you to feel. I said, I want all of my guests to know that, that they can come on here and have the platform, and I'll never steer them in a direction that would make them feel uncomfortable. And I'm really glad that, you picked up on that. And that actually made my day. So branding is very important. Think about it as what people say about you when you are not in the room. I love it. All right. And then get started. Hire a coach if you need to. I did it. I hired a coach because I was not going to do it if I didn't hire a coach. I got a great coach for it. Rip off and duplicate R&D. Copy other people. Don't be afraid to do it. You'll eventually learn how to twist it to your own style. Get resources from other people. I have a ton. Yosef has a ton. Alex has got a ton of stuff. He's got his YouTube stuff going. Bob's got a ton of stuff. Accept the fact that you will most likely suck at first. And that was the big thing for me too. I wasn't going to start my podcast. And I said to myself, you know what? My first 15 episodes are going to be horrible. I told myself that they're going to suck, and I just sucked it up, and I went on with it. Now I'm 100 episodes in, and I'm feeling a lot more comfortable, although I do get a little nervous before each episode. All right, so kind of.
Nico, can I ask you a question?
Please.
This is probably different for everybody, but like for you personally, when did you feel that like you kind of moved away from feeling like you sucked and you should keep going? Like, where was that breaking point? You're like, no, I'm actually good at this. I'm not going to give up. Did you sense that turning point when you were doing this at first?
In comfortability. So I became more comfortable. However, I'm going to say that every single time I have a podcast interview, I get a little nervous. But there was a time when I got Mikey T. So Mikey T was the first person I interviewed because he was my coach. And then I had him on again. What happened was we were talking about, we were on a Clubhouse call. So he and I were also doing Clubhouse for a while when it first came out for like a couple of months. And we jumped off the call and we started ranting. And I said, wait a minute, Mike, let's get you on air. So we ended up recording our second episode, me and Mikey T. And it was just it made me feel like this is exactly what I need to be doing. We were free flowing. We were in the moment. We were talking about what it was that was on our chests, and we were both knowledgeable about the space. And it was at that time, I can say, I guess that would be the time when I was like, yes, I like this. This is what I'm here to do. Don't know if that helps, but that was probably like 40 episodes in.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and here's another thing. So I'm a school teacher as well. So people might think, well, you have an easy transition from talking to kids all day to talking on the microphone. But for me, it was not, because I'm looking into a blank camera. There's a microphone there. It's being recorded, right? Anytime you're being recorded, you think, and I never felt super knowledgeable in the multifamily space. So there were all these feelings that made me not want to do it, but I still did it. And today I'm so grateful that I have it. Yeah. All right, let's rock. Any more questions? Just fire them out there. Like I said, open book, not shy. So decide how often you're going to be visible. So with a blog, I was doing it the first weekly, and that killed me. I switched it to monthly. That was more helpful, but it was just too much for me. Podcast weekly, and the meetup, Yosef and I were doing twice a month for a year, and then we backed it down to once a month. And Yosef, lean on giants, man. He
Yes.
said, "Yeah, you got me turned on to this."
So again, when I was trying to create this thought leadership platform, one of my limiting beliefs was like, who am I? Like, I just started this multifamily game. It was like 2-3 months into Jake and Gino, and literally I was just freshly new, no experience whatsoever. So my limiting belief was like, who am I? Can I even claim myself like as a multifamily investor when I don't have any multifamily under my belt? That was my thing, because that's how I started. So I put up that like sort of like a question on biggerpockets.com, and somebody responded to that. That was actually John Casmo. Later I learned it was him. He said, "Hey, Yosef, that's fine." My question was literally, is that okay for me to try to create a thought leadership platform and call myself a multifamily investor when I literally don't have anything under my belt? And he was the one who said, "It's okay. Don't just try to become someone else than you or other than you. Just be yourself and try to just be open, and people will resonate with your start and they will follow your process." And that was what strengthened me back then the most. So I had that screenshot. I still have it. And then that's how I started. And one of the, I think, the strategy I used was, like Nico said, lean on the giants. You don't have to be the expert in everything. You can actually invite an expert guest and let them talk. You just need to prepare good quality questions so that there can be like good flow. And then you're actually leveraging their expertise, and people will think that you are also part of that, the expertise realm. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. People will associate you with that person, right?
Yes.
And Yosef began right away. He created like a list of people to get on our meetup, and he reached out to those people. I was like, "Are you crazy? They're never going to do it." But we learned that people do want to come on other people's meetups, podcasts. They want to appear on their blog posts. Why? Because that's free publicity for them, right? A lot. So here's a quick example: is Rod Khleif. He was selling tickets to his newest event or whatever, and he was like, "All right, I'll hop on." And we were like, "What?" So he hopped on our meetup, and it was because he needed to sell something. So and if you think about it, even if you have 10 family members that are listening to or reading your blog, right? People want more exposure. So it's free exposure for them. And if you catch them at the right time, you can basically get anybody on your show. And people do podcast tours, people do meetup tours, right? That they're looking to be on these shows. And I'm sure Bob is realizing now that people will reach out to you to be on your podcast. People find you, people find me now too.
Right. And also, you could be a guest, right? That might be also your way of having a thought leadership platform. You don't have to have your own podcast. You might be a guest on someone else's. For example, I don't have a podcast, but one of my on my vision board, one of my goals, and I called it being like pushing myself out of comfort zone challenge in 2021, was being a podcast guest. So consistently, I started scheduling, reaching out people. I actually literally reached out to podcast host saying, "Hey, this is my name is Yosef. This is my background, and this is my story. I would love to be a guest on your show. If you're okay with that, let me know." And believe it or not, amazingly, I realized a lot of podcast hosts, they look for a guest. Why? Because there's only so many people, and they wanna pump out the content. But then they first start with the like most well-known ones in their league, and then once it's done, they need a guest, so they start reaching out too. So it's okay for you to just reach out and talk about yourself, and most likely they will be okay with having you on the podcast. So what I did was I started with the last known podcast hosts, and then one by one, and then after that I asked them, like, do you know anyone else in your league that might need me as a guest, and they will connect me to someone else. So consistently I did one by one, and later at the end of 2021 I counted how many podcasts I was on just in 2021, and it was a little over 40.
That's epic. You know, so Neil Bawa doesn't have a podcast either. He does like webinars and he's got his roundtables and stuff. But he does podcast tours where he gets on in front of everybody's audience. So you were just in front of 40 different people's audience. That is freaking powerful, man.
And guess what? Now you can use this recording as your own content on your social media.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's just a double exposure.
I think it's a phenomenal way. Yeah. If you're a little too, if you're afraid of, starting your own podcast, let's say, but you want to go that route, yeah, be a guest on other people's podcasts for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if any one of you want to try to be a guest on a podcast, just let me know, reach out to us after this. We could definitely hook you up with someone.
Totally. Yeah. Have a call. All right, let's keep going. Have a call to action. So we're putting all this content out. We're helping people. We need to have some sort of call to action where people can either go to their website, book a call with you, like, subscribe, rate, review, share.
I'm filled.
Yeah, whatever. Try to have a call to action, right? It doesn't have to be every single thing you put out, but you should have a call to action on the majority of the things that you're putting out there. And stick to it, guys. Stick to it. I say commit to it for at least a year, right? And if you can't do it for a year, then maybe you shouldn't do it at all. And if after that time you feel like you're burning out, you can take on help like Joe Fairless, Hunter Thompson, Whitney Sewell. They have other people host their podcasts for them now. We can eventually switch it to in-person meetups and kind of not really get guests anymore, Yosef and I. We're doing more in-person stuff, right? We could just hang out with people. We can change the dynamics of it, but stick to it and commit to it for a year, I say. All right, we're kind of wrapping it up here, Yosef. I know it's getting late, but we did a meetup and I did a podcast, completed over 40 meetups to date, and we never missed a meetup. Connected with hundreds of like-minded people. We added just under 1,000 people to our mailing list, and that is really powerful. We have just under 1,000 people on our mailing list, so we can just email these people now. We learned a ton from all our guests because we sit there, we're taking notes, asking questions. This keeps us accountable and relevant in the space, right? I can't move this up. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I got it. All right. This provides value for your audience. They get to connect, share with ideas, learn from others, etc. And it provides a lot, like you're saying, Yosef, a lot of content. You can cut all this stuff up. You can hire somebody to cut it up, like Justin Morziniak. He hires people to cut up all these videos for him, and that's content. Same thing with the podcast, 97 interviews published, never missed a week. Connected with top industry leaders, asked to co-sponsor on about half a dozen deals. Learn four different sponsors asked me to be a co-sponsor, which is great. Learned a ton from the guests. I always ask questions, and keeps you accountable and relevant in the space, right? It's like something you got to keep doing. Some people lose steam in their multifamily journey, but if you have an audience listening, you got to perform, right? It also provides a ton of content. That's essentially it. Here are just some common limiting beliefs. You can add as many as you want, and maybe we'll try to shoot some down. Maybe somebody's got a limiting belief that they want to share right now. Don't be afraid, because we all have them. I just kind of put a few up. So I see, Steve, you're thinking about something, man. What do you think? Do you think you want to do a thought leadership platform? Maybe you're not ready. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I think some things that crossed my mind is similar to like what when Yosef was saying earlier on. It was like, I don't have maybe the knowledge and experience, but maybe that's actually what I don't mind talking about, right? It's almost like if you can see me grow up, right? And if you're with me long enough, maybe in a year or so, you kind of saw that evolution, because I'll, maybe talking about what I've learned or my mistakes is actually a good thing. So I'm sort of thinking more about, it doesn't have to be like I'm the guru. It could just be like this is how rough it is if you're in my similar position, of my experience level. I'm sure there's plenty of other people just like that. I know there is, because in my own network of just getting to meet people, I see people that either already went through where I am today, or they are going through what I'm going through today. So probably will resonate well.
I 100%. Just think it this way. Like, let's say you're starting the journey now, and now you're listening to Grant Cardone's podcast. Do you think you can resonate that with his $100 million fund? No, right? But imagine like Yosef just showed up and he said like, oh, I started 2 years ago, I struggled this and that. I started my virtual meetup without having any experience, but I grew into it. And then people started coming, joining, 5 people, 10 people, 15, 20. And now he's still doing it. I think this type of story will resonate more than the story from Grant Cardone. So, I mean, obviously we need the level of people who are like that far ahead and then grew level, but also we need like intermediary people who can come after that, so that like more vast different spectrum, people from different spectrum can resonate.
Yeah, great.
But one of the tips that I sort of learned that's kind of been helping me, because about a year ago I started doing a bunch of LinkedIn posts, and I read a book, a guy named Darrell Eves. He's a huge YouTuber. Like, all he does is YouTube, and he makes a ton of money on YouTube. And piece of advice that he gave, I wish I had the book in front of me, I would grab it. But one of the pieces of advice that he gives is like, if you want to start a podcast, if you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start a blog, whatever you want to do, sit down and write out 100 topics. So before I began even asking people to be on my podcast, I wrote down 100 names of people I want to have on my podcast. And what he says is, when the times get a little bit tough and you're feeling a little bit burned out, or you're having a tough week, you can go back to that list, and you don't have to go back to the brain power of trying to create, oh man, what am I going to talk about now? Oh man, who am I going to invite to be on my list? Because you have this big list already to start with, and then you're going back and it's been interesting for me, at least from my perspective. I did it a year ago for LinkedIn posts, and I went a while of just writing different blog style LinkedIn posts, and it's very interesting to be able to go back on those days where you're like, and make topics that are kind of softballs for you, right? Like, some things are going to resonate easier with you, and you're going to be like, oh, you know what, today I need to throw out a softball because it's a bit of a tougher day. But then you're still creating content, you're still going on and on and on. If I look through this, some people jumped on and some people jumped off, but like, I can tell you right now, I don't know most of the people on this meetup, but there are 4 people on this meetup that were on my 100-person list. So like, just make a list and just go down and be like, yeah, I would love to talk to this person. Here's 100 things I want to talk about. So.
Yeah, I did that. It's funny. I did that too, Bob, for my blog. I wrote 50 different topics, and it was so helpful. It also kind of calmed me down a little bit.
Well, yeah, and then you quickly realize how much information you can talk about, right? Like, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I just wrote 50 topics down. I guess I am a little bit more of an expert than I thought, right?
Yeah. And it's even something like, when we're doing something like a blog, it's something that, you're learning as you're writing, right? So you can sit there and research a topic, which is super helpful, because you're educating yourself. And I spent a lot of time researching certain things that I knew I was going to be questioned on, or that I knew I needed to know to write my blog.
Yeah, great.
But maybe let's backtrack a little bit. So not everybody has to do a thought leadership platform, right? There always going to be like somebody in the background underwriting, and that's fine, and asset managing, and that's fine too. You still have to find a team somehow, and maybe this isn't the way to find your team. But for a lot of us, we're going to want to be presenting ourselves to, even if it's just our inner circle of friends and family, we're going to have to present ourselves as a leader to them, to the people that we're going to be connecting with. So try to think of that, take that stance as what's the best way that you can present yourself to those people that you think you're going to need to ask for partnerships or capital from at some point. You'll see there questions in
Okay.
there?
Any other question?
I have a question. First of all, this is great information. Thank you guys for putting this on. So my question is, I haven't been following too closely, like how to make a podcast, or I've heard of Anchor, maybe a few others, but what have you guys used to create your podcasts? And do you recommend using that platform or not?
Yeah, so I use Libsyn, and I do recommend it. I mean, I don't really know anything else. That's all I've ever used. And it's cheap enough and easy enough to use. However, I don't even post to Libsyn. I have a company, same as Bob, that does all the editing for me, posting for me. So I don't post to publish it on Libsyn. However, I enjoy it. I mean, it's been working good enough for me, and it's cheap enough. Libsyn. I don't know much about Anchor, but I've heard the name before.
Lipson, is that correct, Nico?
No, it's Libsyn.
Oh, thank you.
Again,
Nico,
that's another great point. If you want to do a podcast or YouTube video, but you're not that like tech editing person, then you can hire somebody who could do it for you.
Yep.
Nico had a great podcast interview where he interviewed the people who edit his podcast and help post it. It's really great. There's a ton of great information out there if you're looking for. I mean, and I told Nico this already, but it really is the thing that put me over the top to actually doing it, because I had this analysis paralysis of how much time is it going to take me to edit? Where am I going to put my platform? What am I going to, and just learning about those businesses that are going to do all that work on the back end for you really pushed me over. So I would recommend checking out Nico's podcast about that.
Thank you. Do you recall what number that is, Nico?
I'll find it right now. I can also add it to the follow-up
Email. Yeah, just add a link to the email, Nico.
Yep. All right.
Great. If I don't have any more questions, I think we could close it up. Nico, this was
Yosef.
fantastic slides.
Hey,
Hey,
Yosef,
Amin.
I have one question. Hey, Yosef, this is Aman. How are you?
Hey, Aman, how are you?
Thanks, man. I'm good. So the question I have, how do you create the questions that you are going to ask before, before you record the podcast? Like what kind of criteria do you use at that time?
So this is where it's all up to you and how you want to run your podcast. Some people have scripted questions. I have no scripted questions. I like a free-flowing format where I just have the beginning is let's get some information about your background, and I kind of pick up on what they like to talk about, and then we just keep flowing from there. However, my coach told me to write down 50 questions to ask for people that are challenging to kind of get stuff out of. So information, and I had to use a list once with one guest that was a little, very short with their answers. But so it's up to you. Do you want to have like a scripted a conversation where it's scripted? Some people like that, or you can have a free flowing. There's multiple ways to do it. For example, John Kasman came on and he said, "What do you want to talk about today?" And we laid out a topic prior to starting. Most people, though, they just come on and we get their background information and then we just rock. I also recommend listening to other people's podcasts to see what they do and what you like, and then maybe what you think you can handle. Because we got to remember this has got to be sustainable too. So for me to sit down and learn everything about all the guests and then ask them the specific questions is too much work. If I have time and if I don't know them, I'll listen to a podcast or so that they have done to give me some context of where they're coming from, and then kind of take the conversation from there.
Got it. And what kind of time duration do you more focus on? You know, like, do you do like 40 minutes, 30 minutes, or like 1 hour?
Okay, so for me, I do 30 minutes, but it's based on the fact that it costs money. The more minutes you have being edited by a team and the more minutes you're posting are going to cost more money. So I was like, I'm going to stick under the 30-minute per episode rule. However, I tend to go over that sometimes, but it's all based on what you're comfortable with. I mean, like Joe Rogan, I mean, he goes for hours, right?
Yep. Because I'm targeting 20 minutes right now.
Beautiful. I think that's people's attention span. Me being an educator, 15, 20 minutes is solid. You can get a lot of information in there.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, I saw some podcasts for like 1 hour and you cannot finish even single drive sometime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're figuring out your audience right now, which is phenomenal. You're figuring out people that are commuting 15, 20 minutes. They're going to get that in one drive. That's perfect. That's a great base point.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Can we actually take a screenshot now?
Yeah,
Open
let's do
all
it.
your screens and show us your beautiful faces and 2 thumbs up. Vlad, I love that when you do that. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you very much for your time today. And thank you very much, Nico, for preparing all these slides and great information and sharing. It was a ton of golden stuff today. So let's, rock it. Like pick a platform and just do it, right? Do it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite quotes, do it anyway, just get it done, right? And then you're going to get over the hump. And as long as you're doing something that you're passionate about talking about or presenting, then you will stick through it and it's going to, pay dividends in the long run.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
See ya.
Nico. Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.